Hi, Bhavesh.
Hi, Elsie. Hi.
Okay, am I audible?
Very much, very much.
All right. Okay. I saw your new presentation, so please, I request you to add the ocean pictures and please present it for me, your technical person.
Yeah, you are okay with the presentation, the new one, or how is it?
One which you just made got only lakes in it, but please, after that, just put my presentation also. There are
Oh,
portions of.
fine, fine.
Thank you so much. And present it, and I'll just speak over that. Thank you so much.
But we are giving the presentation rights to you, so you can present your case. So you can just slow or fast the way you want to go for that.
Even in the morning, I had trouble, and then there's always
Yeah,
a
I
glitch.
know. I
That's
know.
why kind request for
Fine.
someone from your side to do it, please.
Fine. Pradeep sir, good evening. Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Good evening. I can't see you. Is that?
I was just trying to make things work, sir.
No, I thought I heard Adit, but I didn't.
Sir, this is Bhavesh.
Okay, Bhavesh.
And Kapilji,
Bhavesh,
welcome.
can you see the video, or I mean, are you able to see my whole screen or just the video?
Yeah, it's on the shared screen, kind of. Not full screen, Sheetal, as of now. Sir, this is Bhavesh. Okay. Kapilji, welcome.
Can you see the video, or I mean, are you able to see my whole screen or just the video?
Yeah, it's on the shared screen. Not full screen, Sheetal. Welcome, Kapilji.
Hey Bhavesh, thank you so much.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, Ruben. Welcome.
Hi, Mr. Vesh. How are you?
Quite well.
Mr. Bagai might be joining after 6. He's informed me that he's going to be in another event till then. So regrets for that, but he should be around after 6.
Fine, fine. It's fine, fine. Mr. Ruben, would you like to speak on his behalf? It's fine. Whenever he joins, he can motivate us. Is it okay if you want to speak on his behalf?
Bhavesh,
Yes, sir.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Mr. Atul Bagai will join at 6 at ease. He said
Okay.
he will have plenty of time after 6 because then he will be at ease. There will be no hurry. So,
Okay. Okay. Fine, sir.
so
Fine.
yeah, so he will, means after finishing all the programs, he will be
Oh,
there from 6 to 6:30.
okay. Fine, sir. Fine. Hi, Aditi ji.
Hello, Bhavesh. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Aditya. So,
All set, sir?
yeah, चल रहा है और बताइए how is, so you had a busy day today?
Very busy, sir. Yeah. This is the third engagement, and there's an engagement at 6 o'clock also.
Oh,
So I'll go until 7 o'clock, sir.
good. So this is your day?
Yeah. Sir, you are the guru, so you have to, I think it will be big, your day will be bigger, sir. But hello,
No,
Nandini
I
ma'am.
think,
Hi, Sheetal.
yes. This is the biggest festival.
Yeah. But sir, because of the
Hello,
lockdown, I think
everyone.
initially we could only do one event. Now this I'll be able to do 4 events in a day. So you can,
Yeah.
so it was it's a quite a multiplication of the events because of this.
I think this is good in a way, but lockdown is opening up on Monday in Delhi.
Yes, sir.
So I think you and I will have to come maybe next week or so.
Is that a confirmed news?
Yeah, it's a confirmed news.
Okay, wonderful.
So it's
Yes,
like,
Evening,
from
sir.
7 they will open up the metro shops on 50% basis, and offices also on 50% basis.
Yeah, metro should be the last one to open because that's where you get the maximum crowd.
Yeah, metro they are opening with the this social distancing. 50% capacity metro will run.
sir, it's 5 p.m. now. I
Hello,
think we can.
sir. Sir, with your permission, shall we start? Yes.
Yes, it's dot 17 hours.
Thank you, everyone. So, welcome, good evening, and happy World Environment Day to each and every one of you joining us today. The world has been celebrating Day from past 47 years now as a platform to raise awareness on various environmental issues. This Environment Day is focused on the theme of ecosystem restoration, and we at Climate Reality India, Mobis Foundation, with UNEP are joining the force in bringing together a program for the young and the restless. Ecosystems are integral part of our existence and support all life on Earth. We see them in various forms like oceans, forests, mountains, urban green spaces, etc. And we human beings derive many benefits out of it, like food, water, healthy air, soil, inspirations, ideas, and the list is never ending. But in last few decades, our hunger for resources has pushed many pristine ecosystems to the breaking point, leaving them damaged and degraded. There is no denying that biodiversity loss and climate change catastrophes are taking place across the globe. And we use ecological resources like we have 1.6 Earth. But the truth is, we just have one. And we are at the point where we urgently need to revive damaged ecosystems, reimagine our relationship with the natural world. Because if our ecosystems are healthy, healthier would be the planet Earth, and healthy we will be the people of this planet. Today, we are joined by many young participants to learn from our esteemed panel of experts about why UN is launching this decade of ecosystem restoration, which means 10 years of action, how we have reached to this point today, and what we and young people can do to be part of this movement. We will listen to stories of our own green warriors about their initiative, courage, and action to change the world we live in. Before inviting our experts, I request our participants to keep the conversation flowing in the chat box. I could anyway see that all of you are introducing yourself, from which school you are, from where you are joining. So please keep this conversation flowing. Keep sharing your comments, views, experience in the chat box as the webinar flows, and help us reducing this interaction barrier due to the webinar mode. With this, I will invite our first expert to understand the historic perspective of ecosystems, their importance to mankind. And for that, we have Dr. Rambuj with us. Dr. Rambuj is an environment and sustainability professional with rich experience for over 40 years. Currently, he is the CEO of Mobius Foundation, also advising UNEP on Transboundary Landscape Initiative, headed the Ecology Division of UNESCO South Asia office in New Delhi for over a decade, and also convened South and Central Asia Man and Biosphere Network. He has also served as Regional Director for CEE and Assistant Director of the Ministry of Environment for the Government of Uttar Pradesh, India. Dear sir, we welcome you to the webinar, and the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much, Sheetal, and a very warm greeting of World Environment Day to everyone. This day is really a celebration for all the environment professionals, everybody. And what a joyful day. As I was talking to Mr. Aditya Pundir about his day's engagement, in fact, all the environment professionals are so busy today, and that's a good sign. We all the professionals engaged in the field of environment really celebrate this day to reaffirm our commitment to the cause of environment. I have been asked to give you a historical perspective, and really, in fact, the whole environment journey, if I would like to say here, begins with this day. Way back in 1972, the first United Nations Conference on Human Environment, or Stockholm Conference, that was organized from June 5 to 12, a week-long event. And at that time, the world was divided in the lobbies of development versus environment. Of course, a lot of destruction was happening all around the world, many environment disasters. And Mrs. Indira Gandhi was the first head of the state who joined this event. She was the only head of the state apart from the host country's prime minister. And her speech was considered to be the kind of path-breaking during that conference. Stockholm Declaration is the Magna Carta of environment in a way. And the Stockholm Principles still hold ground for all the administrative, legal, and all other arrangements that we see all around the world. Many of our own legislations are based on the Stockholm Principles. So June 5 is celebrated in the memory of the Stockholm Conference. And in 72, we started the event with the theme. I think I have a presentation very quickly. I would like to just share this with you all, so that, because I was asked to make it slightly colorful. So this is what our day is. And of course, the other thing that is very important is that this day, today, UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration is being launched. And Mr. Atul Bagai, head of the UNEP in New Delhi, he has been in many programs in the launch event of the national launch event of the day, and he will join us at 6 o'clock to tell more about this. The resolution that was passed during the UN this conference, that was reiterated in the UN General Assembly, and that reads urging the governments and the organizations, the United Nations system, to undertake on the day every year worldwide activities reaffirming their concern for the preservation and enhancement of the environment with a view to deepening environmental awareness. So that was the resolution, and through which we celebrate every year the World Environment. Is every year very nice slogans, themes are. I think if someone reads through these themes, I think one can become an expert in the area of environment. The first World Environment Day in 1974, the theme was Only One Earth. Then, of course, in '86, it was International Year of Peace and A Tree for Peace. That was the slogan. And in fact, by that time, World Environment Day's profile has grown up very high, because many political, religious, and of course, professionals were involved. And Rajiv Gandhi, along with the French President Franco Mitra, and Uganda's President and UN Secretary General, they planted a tree to mark the ceremony, and also to highlight the link between conflict and environment destruction. So peace was the theme. And then 2000, the environment millennium, of course, time to act, because world thought that this whole millennium will be the environment millennium, as we thought that the 2020 will be the year, the decade, the whole decade will be devoted to the environment decade. And of course, the whole year was devoted to nature. Even Earth Day and Biodiversity Day, they all were devoted to nature. Our solutions are in nature. We are part of the solution for nature. And even Earth Day, protecting our Earth. In fact, these three terms, ecology, ecosystem, and ecological restoration, are very common. In fact, I am not going to go into the historic details of the word, but only thing that I would like to mention here is the word ecosystem. In fact, it is being used at many platforms nowadays, in the diplomacy, in the management, in sciences, and particularly the restoration sciences, which is coming up along with the sustainability science, a major discipline in many institutions. And that ecosystem was, of course, coined by Arthur Tansley, a British ecologist. But before that, German geologist Carl Mobius in 1877, he described or defined this term. Because I work for Mobius Foundation, so I wanted to mention this, our link as well with the Mobius link as well with the ecosystem concept. Most integrative concept, as Nature, the highest rating journal of in the world, has said that ecosystem concept is the most integrative concept in the sciences. Eco-restoration, in fact, if we spend $1, that will bring $10 to $15 in return by investing in nature, by restoring this. And we have a next 10 years during this critical period to save 1 million species from extinction. And that is what is important for this decade. This is the report of IPBES, intergovernmental platform on biodiversity and ecosystem services, which says very categorically that we are losing the species at a very fast rate. If you just go through the statistics, you can very well imagine how serious danger is, the crisis is. The other thing is that we have the nature to solve all these problems. And particularly these, we compiled, when I was in UNESCO, we compiled this report. In fact, Aditya, you remember we launched this report on the World Water Day in that year, and that was very much highlighted, this report by the Secretary Water Resources, Government of India. This is, you can download this report from our website, very important report if we are going to look into the nature-based solutions for water. And globally, these solutions could reduce 30 to 40% of global carbon dioxide these emissions. And by 2030, of course, there is 2/3 chance of keeping warming below 2 degrees. And this is also being touted as a new deal for nature, actually, for ensuring zero loss of natural habitats, zero human-induced extinction, and halving the ecological impacts. And countries in their nationally determined contributions, they are going to have nature-based solutions and ecosystem restoration as their targets to achieve not only the Paris climate deal, but also to achieve carbon neutrality, the net zero. That is the aim which nowadays US new president of United Nations, Biden, has set the target, and that is being supported by many countries, including China. China has also pledged that by 2060 they will become net zero. European Union 2050, UK 2050, US much before that. So all the countries are aiming towards that goal. And finally, in fact, this is the hashtag, the generation restoration. In fact, we were the generation of destructions, and I think the next generation has to be the generation which can restore whatever has been destroyed. And this is also essential for making peace with nature, which is the defining task of the 21st century. It must be the top priority for everyone, everywhere. The message of Antonio Guterres, UN Secretary General. And of course, we need these youth voices from all over the world. And I think this event is mostly joined by many of the youth, and they will listen to this call of the day to restore degraded ecosystem wherever they are, globally, regionally, locally, everywhere, and raise your voice. We need more voices from you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. You have very well explained right from, on the history of Environment Day to how we have reached here. And thank you for stressing on some of the important concepts also, and importance of restoring our ecosystem. And very rightly, you have mentioned that without reviving ecosystems, we cannot achieve SDGs, we cannot achieve Paris Agreement climate, and that will make 2030 a very significant milestone, be it for ecosystem restorations, SDGs, or climate action. And I am sure that by now, like, our young minds have and participants have got some idea on the importance of this special day, and I'm sure they will be excited to become part of the action. But we are also looking for the answer to what can we do as an individual or youth, and for our educators are looking for an answer that how education can play an important role here in ecosystem restoration. And to address this question, I invite Mr. Aditya Pundir, the Director, India and South Asia for the Climate Reality Project India. He took over the branch in 2010 after he received his training from former Honorable Vice President of US, Al Gore, in 2009 on climate change. And then he worked extensively in the field of climate change and sustainability in India. And also he's the mind behind in developing one of our flagship program, teachers training program for climate education, under which we have trained over 8,000 teachers. Welcome, Aditya sir, over to you.
Thank you, Sheetal. Thank you so much. Well, I think what you are asking me to do, talk about all what people can do, what educators can do, will take at least 2-3 hours. So, and I've got only 10 minutes. So I think I will rush through a few things. So I'll share my screen. I have made also a small presentation. Is it visible, Sheetal?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll begin. So as Dr. Rambuj has very nicely given us a start by talking about ecosystems and how things are. Well, yes, today's presentation and day is all about ecosystems. Every day as we were talking, sometimes we talked about Earth, sometimes we talked about uh, biodiversity, sometimes we talked about climate emphasis, but this time we are talking about 10 years. Why are we talking about 10 years? Why not again 1 year emphasis on something? Well, let's look at SDG. I think all the educators and children today know about SDG. What is happening now we are seeing is after 2015, all the other SDGs are moving good. But unfortunately, our SDG 13, 14, and 15, which are related to environment, are not doing well. Climate change is becoming worse since 2015. The life below water, the oceans are in bigger trouble than they were in 2015. And life on land is in worse situation, which was in 2015. So all the three SDGs are going down instead of going up. So I think there was a need for course correction. So that's why I think very rightly UNEP has decided that they have to really focus now for the next 10 years on these SDGs, so that by 2030, the SDGs can be met. And 2030 is again a very important date, which I will talk to you later on regarding climate. Like, as you all know about climate change, and all know climate reality, climate change is probably one of the biggest challenge which this century we are facing, the humanity is facing. And probably this is one challenge which is also going to hamper our development and our achieving of the other SDGs, other 16 SDGs. Because if we cannot control climate, then it is going to be like a wild tiger or a coming at you. Cannot just control it. It is not possible to, it will not be possible to handle it. So what do? It is affecting a lot of our ecosystem. It is affecting our food. It's affecting our water. It is affecting our health. It is affecting our infrastructure. And these are a big ecosystem. As all the children know, that the today's world population is 7.8 billion people. It's huge. About 100 years back, there were less than a billion people on the planet. And now there are 7.8 billion people. And they're saying by 2050, there will be 10 billion people. So now for feeding these 10 billion people, you'll need more food. You'll need more water. You'll need more health services. So all these ecosystems which provide us all this are under stress. So we are having a problem. On one side, our population is increasing, so we need more. On the other side, climate is seeing to it that all the food, water, health goes down. So how do we move ahead? Now, to give you an idea of the problem, that what are we trying to achieve? By 2030, we are trying to achieve a temperature of rise of 1.5 degree. Now, and the bad news is that in 2021, it's already up by 1.1 degree. So you have very little room available now to move ahead, only about 0.4 degrees till 2030, in case if we want to achieve the target in 2050 or 60 of net zero. So this is the challenge we are facing. And this is a very tough challenge, I would say. And a lot of technologies which are going to solve this problem are still not there. They are in the labs. People are working on it. So here the role of youth and the children and the future generation comes in, because the future will be based on innovation, technology, and behavior changes. So children, as you are, most of you are young audience today who are watching this program and who are part of this discussion today, innovation is the most important thing you will have to look at. You will have to look at new ways of solving problems. You will come across a lot of problems, whether it's in water related, energy related, environment related. So how do you innovate and how do you use technology to solve it? So this is going to be a very important part. And of course, behavior change. How can you change the behavior of yourself, of your friends, of the community? How do we live better? How do we eat less meat? How do we consume less? How do we do it more? I would say consumption is important, but it should be more responsible consumption. So we will be learning a lot about it in the coming month when you will be working on it. And of course, there are so many solutions of climate change. Their solar panels are there, wind, electric cars, trees. So these are all the domains, and there are many more domains than this. So you will have to work on all of them and think of how can I innovate? How can I solve this problem? What technology can I work on? This will be giving us solutions probably, and we might be able to meet. And see, it is possible. You see, people said that vaccines take how many? 10 years to develop. But through science and technology, we were able to develop vaccine for COVID in 1 year, which is a remarkable thing. So there is a possibility of solving this climate challenge as well as the ecosystem restoration only if we look at the right solutions and the right effort is put in. Now, let me tell you a few stories about some young people who did it. I'm showing you a photograph of a young African boy, Malawi. He was only 14 years old about 10 years back when he read a book about windmills and how it can power. He was living in a poor small town of Africa, and he went ahead, he took his bicycle, he took the spare parts available, and he made a windmill. And it's not a demo windmill. This windmill produced electricity for his four lights and 2 fans. So this is an innovation of a young boy sitting somewhere in Africa. Another story I'll tell you there's a young boy, I worked with him about 2-3 years back, a very bright boy from Bengaluru. So Sankalp is also a climate leader. When we were doing a campaign on water, so I was not even sure he will be able to do these things, but he went around in Bengaluru. He was from, as you know, he was from Bengaluru. He got even the chief minister to attend the walk. He got all the celebrities in Bangalore to attend, take the pledge. And he did wonderful work in water. And then he went around talking about water, how to save water around the whole state of Karnataka. And of course, then the work was acknowledged, and he was called even at the United Nations to give a talk on how he did it. And he was only 16 years from Frank Anthony Public School. The third story I want to tell you about is probably one of our schools in Delhi. This is Bal Bharti Public School, Dwarka. They might be here, I don't know. They might have come here also today. They are part of a Green Campus program. Why I'm telling about they don't know I'm going to give their example today. Why I'm giving the example is about 3 years back, they had invited me to give a teacher's training in their school. And I had gone there, we trained the teachers, about 60, 70 of them, and we came back. And we forgot about it, and we went on to other schools and started working. After 1 year, I received a report from this school about the acts they had done. And they had done literally 10,000 acts of leadership, like doing planting, then doing all types of activities in 1 year. I was really amazed the amount of impact a single school can create if it wants to do something. So that is the power you people have, the school and the children, the teachers have, that in case you want to create a ripple in the community, you can do it. So how would I put it in a very 5 minutes talk? How would I put it? I would put it very simply. How can I support my environment? How can I support my systems? In 3 ways. Act if you see a problem. If you see some problem happening, do something about it. If you see somebody is cutting down a tree, say no to him. If you are seeing somebody throwing a plastic, say no to him, or do something which is positive for the environment. So act if you see a problem. In case you are not able to act, the second thing is, oh, I'm not able to act, I'm somewhere else. Then you can support your friend who's doing it. If your friend is doing a good work, he's helping the ecosystem, he's doing something on water, he's doing on forest, he's doing something for animals. So support him. Even if you can't be there with him, support him through your Insta account, support him through your Twitter account, do things about it, and finally speak and write about it. That is what this workshop is all about. Speak and write about it. That is very powerful. If you can speak well about it, if you can write well about it, you can influence so many people. You can influence so many people if you can speak and write about the problem. So this is something which we will like you to do in the coming time. Learn how to do it. It is not something that you are born with it. You have to develop this skill, and this skill can be learned. So learn it and support. And thank you so much for coming today for this workshop. And we have some wonderful people who will be talking to you all throughout. And I wish you all the best. Thank you, and wish you a very good and happy World Environment Day. Back to you, Sheetal.
Thank you, Aditya ji, for showing us so clearly the big picture and reminding us why we are here today, but also giving us hope and showing the path. Thank you so much for that. Now we'll move to the stories of hope. But before that, let's pause here for a minute and recap the importance of ecosystem once again through this video. I'll request my colleague Bhavesh to play the video. Thank you so much, Bhavesh, for playing this video. And if you like the video, do share it with your friends, family, and network. You can find this video on our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And I will also be putting the link to this video in the chat box very soon. We also have UNEP representative, Mr. Rubin, here with us. UNEP is UN's leading global environmental body that sets the global environmental agenda. So may I please request you, Mr. Rubin, to say a few words and more motivate our audience?
Sure. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. First of all, greetings on this World Environment Day. I am filling in for Mr. Atul Bagai, our country head, for the time being, till the time he comes after 6. But just as I speak to youth, I would like to provide a perspective at the launch of the UN Decade. The declaration of this decade, 2021 to 2030, as the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, it is very purposeful and it is hopeful. And it is hopeful because we have had unsettling revelations in scientific findings over the last couple of years on the state of our biosphere. That's all the ecosystems that exist on the surface of the earth. So as Mr. Rambuj has already mentioned, the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, their 2019 report, it indicates that 1 million species are faced with a threat of extinction, and many within the next decades. And that we have, on top of that, we have other planetary crises that are going on. So for instance, right now we have the COVID-19 health crisis that has had catastrophic implications on human lives and socioeconomic well-being. But as this UN Decade is launched, the message is that it brings is of hope and not of despair, that we can do much more at this point of time. And that once we start restoring our relationship with nature, our health that we are having a big problem with at this point of time, and even our quality of life, it can be restored. But as it kind of unfolds before us, the UN Decade at this point of time, it also recognizes one thing, that this cannot be achieved without participation. And it needs the whole of society to act. It needs to be self-driven. It needs to be participatory. So this is where the role of youth is very, very important, because in cultivating this generation of restoration, that hashtag generation restoration that we have, championing restoration will come from youth. And this would be key in bending this curve on biodiversity loss, the loss that we are seeing. So many of our species are being threatened. So these actions need to actually happen, and this will further reduce, other crises that may happen in the future. So we need to act upon right now. But let me take you to an India perspective of this also, and that is what I want to say is that India is a mega biodiverse country. It is one of those countries that holds 4 biodiversity hotspots of the world. And it accounts for about 8% of the world's recorded species. We have about more than 100,000 species recorded in India, animal species, and about 47,000 plant species. But at the same time, we have about 18% of the world's total population on a land area that is just 2.4% of the entire world's land area. So we have immense pressure on our land as well. So we need to look for solutions. We need to look for innovative solutions to restoration. And youth is going to have to champion this. So definitely, I would put this word out at the beginning of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, that youth is very important. And in the post-COVID context, in the time we're living right now, we have had so many people who have lost their jobs. So ecosystem restoration, what it does is it allows people to find jobs. So once you start actually, restoring land, there have been enough studies that show that it benefits land, but it also allows us to regain our jobs. So that is what is going to also be important for the youth to raise awareness on. So largely towards ecosystem restoration. So it has committed to restoring 26 million hectares of degraded forests and degraded lands and destroyed lands by 2030. And that is a big commitment, and we need to know how to actually achieve that. And there are some barriers though. One is there is a limited awareness in society of the negative impacts on ecosystems. First of all, there are so many different types of ecosystems. So there's a limited awareness in society of that. Then secondly, there's also limited awareness in terms of the benefits of investing into restoration. So that also must happen in this decade. And obviously, there's also, in terms of our technical knowledge and in terms of our capacities for restoration, that is also something that we need to work on. For example, right now, when we think of restoration, most of us think of it as plantations. But at the same time, plantations also need to be in a context. Say, for example, there needs to be an encouragement of the use of native species of plants that you use for plantations, of trees that you use for plantations. That we cannot have an approach where we only plant trees that are of human value to have a human-centric approach to development. But rather, we need to also kind of look at restoring lands through native species. So I really think that the youth will be an integral part for this, for removing some of these barriers, and also in raising awareness, and also finding these innovative solutions to tackle restoration. Again, I thank you for this small little opportunity that you've given me to speak at the event, and look forward to the ensuing discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin, for providing our youth the much needed perspective on the decade for ecosystem restoration. And as you rightly said, we all need to come together. And I will request our audience to use hashtag ecosystem generation restoration and be part of the movement. Well, in just half an hour or so, we have learned a lot so far from our experts. But I'm really curious to see what real action looks like on the ground. And I am sure that all of you are also as excited as I am. Now we bring the stories of hope and actions from the ground. And the first in the line is the story of restoring mangroves in Sundarbans. And for that, I invite Mr. Raj Mohan Ji. For just introducing Mr. Raj Mohan Ji, after pioneering the Yellow Pages in India, Raj has been in the forefront of technology startups since 1999 and has over 2 decades of experience in building successful businesses. At Sustainable Green Initiative, the social enterprise startup, the role he plays is very similar to what he did when he was 27, except that this path is much more socially and emotionally fulfilling and satisfying. Sir, floor is yours. Please inspire our audience.
Thank you, Sheetal, the very kind words. Giants before me, Dr. Ram Burj, Dr. Aditya Pundir, who have been speaking about the kind of work that all of us have been trying to do. I'm just about 8-9 years old in this line of activity. And before that, pioneering the Yellow Pages is a very interesting way of saying I cut a few million trees, because publishing requires a huge amount of paper and pulp which come from trees. So somewhere in the early 2012, when the publishing industry per se, which included the Yellow Pages, was going down as a business model, I was fortunate to get into get the idea of planting trees, the trees that I had probably destroyed inadvertently, because I wouldn't say I did it advertently with a full conscience or with full choice. And we started very small in 2012. Our first year target was 10,000 trees, and we planted about 1,000 trees. And as has been my scholastic records, I have not been very good at achieving the targets that I set. The targets have been rather ambitious. Like you had asked me to do, I will share a small presentation, a very small presentation. And after that, I'm available for questions. Is this good? Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. A very old saying from Africa, we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children, which is very, very true. And we as an organization, Sustainable Green Initiative, we were founded in 2012 to plant and nurture mostly fruit trees that would help fight hunger, poverty, and climate change. How we work, fruit tree saplings are distributed, planted, maintained for 3 years. We have different models in community lands, in homesteads of marginal farmers, organizations like orphanages, old age homes, government schools, paramilitary force campuses, army campuses, etc. As of now, we have planted 3.4 million trees across the world, across the country, sorry, in 12 states across India, of which 500,000, there's a small mistake in the presentation, 500,000 are, that is 5 lakh seedlings of mangroves that we have planted in the islands of Kumir Mari, Bali, and neighboring islands in the Sundarbans in West Bengal. You were with us, Sheetal, you and Mr. Aditya Pundir, you were both with us when we did our first planting, which was also supported by you, a small 50,000 mangrove planting, which we did in the island of Kumir Mari in the Sundarbans. Now, regarding the mangroves that protect the islands have suffered from land erosion, human settlement, farming. This soil erosion has led to seawater coming inland and contaminating wells and water bodies. The recent cyclone and the last year's cyclone has seen tremendous destruction that has happened in the islands of Kumir Mari and the other islands nearby. But what these islands bore also protected mainland Calcutta and parts of Odisha from bearing this huge brunt that the cyclone otherwise would have wreaked in those places. The silver lining, if I may call, of these 2 last cyclones that have hit these Sundarban Islands is that our team there tells me that the islanders and the villagers are now much more clear that the only way that they can save themselves, their land, their islands, and their livelihoods is by planting more mangroves, which will help protect their islands from land erosion and saltwater ingress, etc. 2018, like I told you, is when we first planted mangroves to fight soil erosion, help save embankments, protect islands from sea level rise. And mangroves are also a very great way of sequestering carbon, which is a very important thing when it comes to trying to maintain the carbon footprint as well as keep the temperatures below 1.5 degrees. A lot of interest from international organizations to plant in the Sundarbans is now being shown. I hope they all become practical and real, and we're able to plant a few million, if not a billion, mangrove seedlings in these areas. The interesting thing about planting mangroves is they create their own ecosystem. And once the mangroves are about, say, 8 months to 12 months, say a year old, the next season's seeds, which float down the river during the tides, get entrapped in these small restoration systems that we create, and they grow more. So they multiply. So this ecosystem restoration with a very small intervention turns out into a wonderful activity which multiplies by itself. The way forward, Kumir Mari Island, which was devastated this year, itself needs about 5 million. That's planting mangrove planting that needs to be done. We hope to do a small amount this year and continue on the work the next year. The local names or the species that are planted there are called Bain, Kevada, Kholse, Kakada, Boran, Tora, Hetal, Dudul, Posur, and Sundari. And the Sundarbans, the name of the Sundarbans is the last line that is the last line of mangrove trees which are inland, which give their name, the name to the islands, the Sundarbans. They're very beautiful trees. As far as our organization is concerned, in 2021, we'll be planting 1 million mangrove in selected areas here and 3 million fruit trees in Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, and parts of Bundelkhand, for which we have our own dedicated nurseries where these fruit trees saplings are being grown. The idea is to acclimatize the saplings in the place itself for a period of 9 to 12 months, so that when we plant them in that area, the chances of its rooting and fruiting is much higher, survival is much higher. A small video on the last planting of mangroves that we did. This is a drone video. About 15 days before the planting is actually done during the low tide area, what are called mud flats are dug, if you can see at the extreme end, are dug with straight lines, where sediments from the river come and settle down. And that makes, otherwise this clay soil, it's very difficult to plant seedlings in the clay soil. So these sediments make it very easy for us to plant the seedlings in those areas. So this is from the 2020 planting in the Sundarbans. You can see the stretch from where we started and where we'll be ending, a fairly large stretch. This stretch carried out about 100,000 mangroves that we planted in that area. So that's all from me. Thank you, Sheetal. I'm open to questions anytime. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the great work you are doing. And I've seen for myself that how much efforts and support from the community it takes for successful mangrove plantations. And you have anyways clearly mentioned the importance of mangrove ecosystems, why we need mangroves. There will be some questions for you, sir, in the Q&A box. So I will request that if you can type out the answers for our audience in the Q&A box itself.
Well,
and maybe if we'll have time, then we'll take some questions directly at the end. In fact, I'll request all our experts to reply to our audience to their questions straight away in the Q&A box. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move to our next story of restoration of lakes and coastal zones. And to present a case, we have Ms. Elsie Gabriel with us. Ms. Elsie Gabriel is founder of Young Environmentalist Program Trust Mumbai and ambassador of India Ocean Quest Global International. She is also a certified deep sea diver and has covered over 23 ocean habitat communities as agents of change, researching on conservation and cleanup. That includes plastic pollution from Mithi River and Powai Lake in Mumbai. She is also working with the last men standing at these places, which includes students, residents, BMC Karamcharis, and lot more stakeholders. Welcome, ma'am. We request you to inspire our young audience with your work.
Thank you, Sheetal, so much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here to share glimpses of, our action on ground work that we do. We've been focusing on SDG 14, and as of all of you know, it is, an area which still requires so much of attention. I mean, oceans have been, despite being, the world's dumping grounds, I think they've been very resilient. Not only oceans, all our water bodies, despite being trashed and despite being neglected and used as a garbage dumping ground all over the world. In fact, it's the habitat community has been resilient. The ocean itself has shown so much of resilience, despite being the world's carbon sink. I mean, it needs to gear up. We need to have policies in place, and we need to get more action where SDG 14 is concerned. So we work at a three-pronged areas, that is on the ocean and lake habitat community. We find them to be as very knowledgeable, and we are researching and focusing on TDK. That's traditional knowledge, and traditional knowledge fused with scientific knowledge. So that is our Bridging the Gap is our 2021 agenda, so that ecological restoration is just not very overwhelming for our youth community that we work with. So second is the youth community. The first one was the ocean and the lake communities who live very close to the habitat. And where youth are concerned, this whole week I've been speaking to them, about World International Environment Day, and they feel quite overwhelmed. So as an educationalist, dealing with SDG, it is not very easy to make them come down to ground level. They feel it's overwhelming. They feel it's a very huge gamut of areas that they'll have to work in. So what we're doing as a third-pronged approach is micro identification of the marine and the water body areas in our own backyard. Like we can talk about the scenarios that is happening globally, but what we're trying to do is getting our students and getting our participants to focus right in our own backyard, and then making it practical and doable by seeing what is feasible. So if it is feasible, then we say, okay, identify how feasible it is, who are the stakeholders who can support the system of taking this forward. Therefore, for the last 15 years, we've been working on the Powai Lake. I mean, it is an up and down story. It's been very, very challenging. And we have the water hyacinth that has been there. We've got it cleaned about twice in about 10 years. But then again, now this year, because of the COVID, again, 3/4 of the lake is again covered in water hyacinth. So we do work with the community and the students. We clean up. For the last 15 years, over 20,000 students have done their field work there at the Powai Lake. And we make it interactive and interesting and engaging. So that's just not a one-way preaching. So we relate the lake limnology studies to the curriculum, to their biology classes, to their pollution classes, to their civic classes, and therefore complete the board examination project work at the lake. So that's how we unite, bridge the gap between scientific knowledge, make them, introduce them to the municipality who we bridge the gap and work with the traditional inhabitants of the marine as well as the lake system. And then again to the academics. So it's a three-pronged approach where we try and bridge the gap and see how the young students can, like we said, it is hashtag generation restoration. It is going to be the youth, and unless we equip them, they have to know how to take this forward without being overwhelmed. So it's been a good start in 2020. In fact, I will be sharing the ocean slides a little later. We did over 100 beach cleanups, and we did do identify the green zones that were around India, right from Andamans to Lakshadweep to Kerala and to Orissa also. We did 1 or 2, and we're doing every month in Bali. In fact, being from here, from Mumbai, through webinars, videos, we did 100 ocean beach cleanups in the green zone. So the tribals, the indigenous people, the local people, they can pick up, the youth, especially again, the student community who the young environmentalists deal with. We've done quite a few in Lakshadweep with Climate Reality Project also, and encouraging them of how to conduct it, how to event management it, and how to also ensure that they work with the system and not against the system. So it's very important to lay down the rules and the agenda for the youngsters working. So that's the work that we've been doing. And of course, our this year's 2021 plan is that we're going to be working. We've been touching upon gender equality, inclusivity over the last 4 or 5 years, but we've never really gone deep into that. But this year, 2021, is going to see how the women and of the tribal areas, the women of the indigenous communities are going to be involved in policy making and get the jobs in the environment departments and also in the forest areas, and also ensure that the women community, belong to the decision making. So that's the areas that we have been working with. And of course, the biggest success story was that we took the water hyacinths and we also recycled it. It was dry waste. Of course, for 10 years now, we've been making eco Ganeshas out of it. We've made over 1.2 lakh eco Ganeshas from the Powai Lake silt. and mixing it with the Methi River silt and making this. And religion is a very sensitive issue. So we weren't preaching to them that, this is how it should be. It shouldn't be POP or whatever. But we made it interactive art class. We made it interactive civic class. And numerous students have won awards for making these Ganeshas as part of their civic ICSE projects, as well as CBSE project, and even the municipal schools. So we make it interactive and turn it around. And then using the water hyacinth in these eco Ganeshas, we've also gone ahead. We've been weaving bags and weaving quite a few mats or whatever, but not at a large scale. And then COVID came in, and 2 years we've been stranded at this project. But during 2020, again, we did manage to make a few bricks. And that's one project with the Powai Lake, the water hyacinth and clay bricks, which was even covered widely by the media, and we're grateful for that. So we wish to take this forward, the research done by our students and our organization, of how we can make eco-friendly bricks out of the lake and the river system. So the lake and the river system drew us over the years as a certified deep sea diver, to also know that they're connected to the ocean. So, the students know, they know more than us now. They know it's no more fashionable to just do a beach cleanup. So we've been, interacting with them, and it's a two-way communication system that we established. And in the last 2 years, we came across that, ma'am, we have to retrace our steps, retrace it from where is the plastic actually coming. From the stormwater drains, from the societies, from the hutments, from the hills. So in the Powai Lake, which is surrounded by the 7 hills, research has been done, and we found out what are the gaps of where the municipality, where we can work with the system and take that forward. So we're retracing our steps. We're retracting. 2 steps backwards and then taking a few steps forward. So that's the education system which we're applying, and the students are very, very active, and getting them to come to ground level is quite a tough task, but they know that they have to retrace their steps back in order to really make a jump forward. So that's our Powai Lake story, and our ocean stories from Bali, Lakshadweep, and Kerala, and few in Orissa as well, which we're looking forward to conducting a few more. So that's the students of our community. And post-COVID, I invite many of our student communities and everybody to come and dive with us. So we train you on our diving courses, and our life safety courses, and our marine habitat courses. And we also focus on 2 of our students, in fact, not very many, but 2 of our students have gone ahead and joined marine biology and oceanography. It's not a very large number during the COVID, but it is important that children and students and the youth take up careers in biotechnology, in marine biology and the oceanography. SDG 14 needs more concrete #generation restoration. So we need to equip them, guide them on careers in this field for the ocean, SDG 14, and that will be our mission for 2014. And we've had success stories of just 2, but we're willing to take that forward. And of course, we've taken 2 groups already to our reef studies, our coral studies, and in together with the indigenous people to see how important it is to learn from them, from our fisher folks. In fact, they're on our faculty. And the exchange program that is going on between the indigenous and the research and science has been wonderful. So that's taking a step forward also. So these are the groundworks that we've been doing so far. We've been hit badly by COVID because we need manpower, you need the finances to be out there. And I'm looking forward to networking, and I invite you to join our groundwork at the lake and at the oceans. And also, we've got invited by Australia. In fact, it's good that, we're getting international invitations. I have dived in the Great Barrier Reef, done research there, also in Galapagos and Malapascua, Philippines. These are absolutely remote islands with poverty-stricken areas. On the ground work. Of course, I've been to Sundarbans also and done groundwork there, also poverty. So there's a connect between poverty and the oceanic habitat area. So that's another pronged area that we're studying in. And Madagascar is also one of the poverty-stricken areas where our dives are conducted for corals. But that will be, I think, when we get more support, we will take poverty and the ocean connection further. But right now, our students, we are moving forward, and I request all of you to join us. This much for now. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for all you do and working and sensitizing our young minds, involving them in real projects. It's a great work. And we have been getting some wonderful comments for you. And I'll just read out one of the comments. It says that, ma'am, your work has been multi-helper and beneficial. Hats off to you. And there are lots of such comments. So these comments speak up for the great work anyways, which you are doing. Next in the series, we have Dr. Nandini Deshmukh. She is a PhD in effects of oil pollution on marine life, gold medalist from the University of Mumbai, and was a professor of zoology in Mumbai for 30 years. She authored 4 books, 15 scientific papers, and more than 230 popular science articles. Few years back, she took voluntary retirement from the post of vice principal at Kirti College to dedicate full time to empowering women educators and students on climate action in Maharashtra. Over to you, Nandini, ma'am.
Thank you, Sheetal, for introduction, and let me thank you also for presenting our little work that we do here in Mumbai, and especially from my organization. I will share my small presentation. Is it seen now? Hello?
No, ma'am. You need to share the screen.
Yeah, I'll share it.
Yes, now it is there.
I'll go to the first slide. Today, I would be focusing myself more on the new kind of work which we have taken up. Basically, I'm a marine biologist and learned about oceanography when I was a student. And since then, I got very much concerned with ocean health, because whenever we see ocean or the different patterns of waves and tides, we always keep on thinking what may be inside it. And then we all know that 71% of Earth's surface is covered by this ocean. And during present time of climate change, nearly 95% of the heat is absorbed by ocean. And therefore, we get so many different kinds of cyclones because of the change in tides and patterns. I'm going to focus my attention on Maharashtra coast, though India is surrounded by marine waters from all the 3 sides. The place where from I come, that's Mumbai, born, brought up here for last 60 years. Mumbai, once upon a time, was an island, which 7 different islands are joined together, and it has formed one very big megacity. And people over here have very much less awareness about marine organisms which are residing here. And in fact, all the animal phyla, if you see, they are present in these oceans. So our attempt was to educate people about different marine organisms. Luckily now, 2 marine protected areas are there in Maharashtra. One is Thane Creek Flamingo Sanctuary, which was established in 2015, which comprises of total area of about 16.90 square kilometers. And another is in Sindhudurg district, which is very close to Goa. And there is Malvan Marine Sanctuary, which is established in 1987 with total area of 29.12 square kilometers. Now we work here with the help of Mangrove Foundation, Mangrove Research Center, because they have all facilities available. And luckily, some of my students to whom I have taught in college, they have entered this organization and they are doing a wonderful job. As a result, in last 5-6 years, you could see there is much change in the mangrove cover located in Maharashtra. In 2005 to 2013, it was only 186 square kilometer, which is now grown to 320 square kilometer 2 years back in 2019. This clearly shows that among all the maritime districts of Maharashtra, there is much greater awareness about mangrove cover. As Mr. Rajmohan has worked on mangrove plantations in a very similar way, we have nurseries over here. And these are the different districts where there are a number of nurseries, and good number of people are there who are making these nurseries, and then the plantation programs are done. And then various NGOs are given these particular saplings, which they take help, like Miss Elsie had told about her NGO. So their saplings are distributed to different NGOs, and mangrove cover is day by day growing, which is very essential for survival of Mumbai people. In addition to this, various livelihood activities have been taken up. One among them is crab farming, which is again done in the mangrove region. This particular livelihood activities are basically for fishermen who are suffering a lot because of lack of natural fishery resources. Because of global warming and heating up of oceanic waters, there is a very elaborate migration of marine resources, and hence the marine resources are becoming less, fish resources are becoming less. In addition to that, there is unsustainable fishery also, fishing also done because of trawlers and LED fish, lamp fishery, etc. So these are certain techniques which are told to fishermen, and their livelihood is helped out. As you know, just 3 days after this, on 8th of June, there will be World Ocean Day. And the idea focused this year is about ocean and livelihood. So these are certain aspects in which people are trained. Another is sea bass culture. So this kind of impoundments are cages in which fishes are grown. Also, oyster culture and clam culture is taught to fisher women, and they help out, they get some kind of money through this. Then very interesting thing about the conservation is done is turtle conservation. As you know, the female turtle lays her eggs in different nesting beaches. And when the babies, they come out, they hatch out from the eggs, they go back into the water. Previously, nobody used to look at any of these things, and in fact there were a lot of mortality of these young turtles. But now, under turtle conservation projects, nesting beaches in Raigad, Ratnagiri, Sindhudurga are protected, and lot of people have been given training over there so that they also have a sustainable livelihood. And there are turtle festivals or Kasav Mahotsavs, where people from Harihareshwar, Velas, Guhagar, these are small villages, Tondavli, Tambaldek, where a lot of foreigners also come and they take part in this turtle conservation. Then again, beach cleanup activities are there. A lot of NGOs, they come together, like Elsie's NGO is there. So more than 8,000 metric tons of solid waste has been removed from mangroves per se, when the mangrove cleanup activities are done. And now I am going to introduce one of my students, and now my good friend Harshal Karve. As we were talking of youth actively engaged in conservation, now this young man is removing corals from affected area because of the developmental projects, different developmental projects or road widening or whatever. And it is seen to it that none of the coral is affected, but they are translocated. So very nicely it was said that regeneration, restoration. So he is into restoration and he is actually doing it. So I wanted him to say directly from the horse's mouth. So over to Mr. Harshal Karve, who is a marine conservationist working with Mangrove Research Foundation. Harshal, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deshmukh, for introducing me and inviting me and giving me this opportunity. So talking about corals, corals are charismatic animals. I often wonder how they secrete a layer of calcium carbonate and forms a reef structure. Eventually, these reefs, it protects our coastline and it forms a complex ecosystem. So these ecosystems or these reefs, they are often threatened by anthropogenic activities. So to conserve these reef structures, it is one of the mitigation measure, that is coral transplantation. So in Sindhudurg district, in Malvan Marine Sanctuary, we have been doing this coral transplantation project. In 2016, we translocated few coral colonies from donor site to receiver site. So donor site is basically we identify the healthy coral patches, and then we cut those live coral species, and then we tie those coral species to the concrete slab, and then we deploy those slabs in the ocean, in the sea. And these slabs also act as a fish aggregation devices. So it creates a different ecosystem at receiver sites, and we have been monitoring these sites where we have translocated these corals, and you can see in these pictures that these corals are doing well and they are thriving very well in Malvan Marine Sanctuary. To give another example, next slide please. So in Mumbai, have identified coral colonies and many coral species thriving in along the shore of coastline of Mumbai. So there are non-reef building corals and reef building corals. So for some coastal development, the sites going to affect. So we thought of translocating these corals to other safer site. So in the previous slide, you can see these are the non-reef building coral colonies, where we cut the coral colonies in collaboration with and we cut these coral colonies and we cut these rock slabs where colonies are present, and we translocated them to the other safer site like Navy Nagar, where there is less pollution and less anthropogenic activities. So in the later side, you can see this is the reef building coral called false pillow coral, and there were so many coral colonies present in Mumbai. So these corals, they grow on boulders. So it was a kind of easy but tedious task. So we translocated all those corals to the other Navy Nagar site, and now we are monitoring these two sites. And these corals, all these corals are thriving well and doing very well. So I hope they will survive and they will do very well in that translocated at that translocated site. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nandini ma'am and Harshal Karve ji for sharing these interesting restoration and livelihood and coral projects in Mumbai with us, with our participants. Now we have been joined by Shri Atul Bagai, Country Head of United Nations of Environment Program, UNEP India Office. We will hear from him. Inviting Shri Atul Bagai. After UNEP established its footprints in India in 2016, Shri Bagai has decisively led from the front to fulfill its mandate across climate change, chemicals, waste, air quality, environment, governance, resource efficiency, healthy and productive ecosystems. Previously, Shri Bagai has also served as the Director Ozone in MOFCC, Government of India, before joining UNEP. As UN veteran, he has spent over 2 decades spearheading challenging assignments in regions across South and Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands. Sir, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar. Please inspire our audience, sir.
Thank you very much, and my thanks to Ram Bhuj for giving me this opportunity. My apologies to each and everyone that I couldn't join at the beginning of this important webinar because I was in a couple of other programs where I had to also speak, and also sorry for joining so late because my last program just finished and then I need to go in for another one. So I won't take long, but I would just like to thank Ram Bhuj and the Mobius Foundation and the other partners, Climate Reality and all, for organizing this webinar on a very important day to highlight the importance of environment to the human beings. And I just wanted to highlight 2 or 3 messages in simple one-liners that environment is very, very critical, or environmental restoration is very, very critical for our survival. Our survival is not at all critical for environmental mitigation. This earth will survive much better without the human race, but certainly human race will not be able to survive without the earth and the resources it gives us. So we need to be careful in how we treat the Mother Earth. We need to be careful to see that we don't do environmental damage to our Mother Earth. We need to be careful that we are able to sustainably produce and consume resources and products that are needed for us so as to not have a long-term impact and damage on Earth. One thing this World Environment Day and the launch of the Ecosystem Decade brings to us is that the war we have been waging on the environment over the last, on our ecosystems over the last 5 or 6 decades, we need to stop that war and we need to make peace with nature. That's extremely critical. We need to make peace with nature. I just briefly saw the presentation, the last one of Nandini ji, and I was amazed at the beautiful flora and fauna that was being shown in her slides, and the kind of damage that we are doing to that flora and fauna is unimaginable. Meaning just a very frightening statistic, the beautiful oceans that you were showing, a frightening statistic that by 2050 there will be more plastic in the oceans than fish is a very oft repeated quote, but it gives a very telling explanation of what we are doing to our nature. So my request to all of the participants here and for people whom you get in touch with, that we need to be careful with our nature. We need to make peace with our nature. Nature, and I see this whole COVID-19 in a very different perspective. Everyone is talking about and everyone is seeing the harmful effects of and the devastating effects of COVID-19 on each and every one of the 7 billion population on this earth. But I am looking at it as an ambassador of Mother Nature, that Mother Nature has sent to us to remind us of the damage that we are doing to the nature, which is leading to pandemics like this. There is scientific evidence now that zoonotic diseases are happening because of the damage that we have done in the last 50 years. So we need to be cognizant of this scientific evidence, cognizant of what damage to nature can lead to, the health impacts of such damage, and then see that we take a corrective action and take recourse to taking that corrective action. I'll conclude by saying that, and this is something I've been using in all the statements I've been making over the last few days for World Environment Day, that Indian tradition, Indian culture is steep in our conservation of our nature. We have a lot of valuable thought leadership and thinking in our traditions, in our culture. One of them, of course, is Atithi Devo Bhav, that the guest is to be treated like a god. I will take that one step further, that today on World Environment Day, when we launch in the decade of ecosystem restoration, we take that narrative, we take that public discourse to a next level, that it's Atithi Devo Bhav, but it is also Prakriti Devo Bhav, that nature is like God to us. And once we start looking at it from that perspective, I'm sure we would be automatically taking a lot of steps to mitigate environmental damage and to conserve Mother Nature. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity, and a very happy World Environment Day to everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. It has been truly our pleasure to have you here today, and thank you for motivating our young participants. And I'm sure that this generation will work towards making peace with the nature. And as you rightly said, that the Prakriti Devo Bhava will follow it. Now, continuing with the stories of hope, the next is the story of urban forestry. And I invite Mr. Kapil Sharma for that. Mr. Kapil, he is the founder of Say Trees. Say Trees is an initiative which he started in 2007 when he could not see Bangalore losing its green cover. When what he started with is one tree sapling in 2007 has now turned into an organization which is planting lakhs of saplings every year and engaging thousands of nature lovers and also supporting farmers through agroforestry initiatives. And on personal note, I follow Say Trees on social media to see the wonderful work they have been doing, and they share it so beautifully with the pictures of change. With this, I welcome and invite Mr. Kapil Sharma.
Thank you so much for the introductions. Let me share my screen and please let me know when you're able to see the same. I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for the introduction, and wishing all of you a very happy World Environment Day. For us, it's for people who are constantly working on environment, every day is Environment Day. So let's get started with. I'll not take much time, but I'll just take you across the journey of Say Trees, how it all started, and what we have been doing. So I started Say Trees back in 2007 when I could not see Bangalore losing its green cover. It was, and the year was 2007. This was, this affected me so much that I could not stop myself from doing something. I saw a problem and I thought that I have to take care of it. I have to do something to solve it. And that's how Say Trees was started. So I started planting, I was seeing trees being brought down left, right, and center. Every day I used to see trees are being cut down for some or the other projects. And I felt that something has to be done, otherwise Bangalore will lose all its charm. And I was so much, Bangalore's greenery affected me so much that I felt that I'm in heaven. And that's how, that's how all of this started. I valued it so much and I could not see the city losing its green cover. I'm sure people who are in Bangalore would have seen this image multiple times. This clearly shows how Bangalore has lost its green cover over the last 3 decades. And this is not just Bangalore. I'm sure every cities or many cities have similar kind of structure where we are losing more and more green cover and the concrete cover is increasing by every passing year. And this is a very concerning. This is very concerning thing that we are losing all the green spaces which we have in cities. So cities produce more than 60% of greenhouse gas emissions, and they account for less than 2% of Earth's surface. So you can imagine 2% of the Earth's surface is causing more than 60% of the greenhouse gas emissions. So it is so important to focus on our cities and make sure that we are not, we don't cause more and more greenhouse gas emissions. So today I would like to show how a small step, which I took in 2007, led to a very big change. So I started planting saplings in 2007, planted one sapling, and then it went on. I was planting more saplings on the weekend because I'm a software engineer. Monday to Friday were office job, and then I used to get only weekends for planting saplings. So it was, I was planting 100 saplings in 2008 and so on, but I felt it is not enough. It was not enough as compared to the trees which were being brought down. So century-old trees were being brought down, and if I plant just 100 trees to replace them, it's not enough. It really doesn't work. I feel it doesn't work, and I felt that it has to be much more. It has to be scaled. And what we have come to now is that we have to remove whatever we have done in past 3 decades. We are trying to scale up everything we can to make sure that we get everything back in this decade. So whatever damage that has been done in the last 3 decades, we all are trying to make sure that we bring it back in this current decade. So I'd like to show you, what I started with. As I said, I started by planting saplings in Bangalore when I saw that Bangalore is losing its green cover, because I could not see that. And and we all know why trees are so important. And this diagram clearly shows what is the effect of trees on us. They reduce air pollution. We all know about that. They cool the cities by 2 to 4 degrees. They reduce rates of cardiac disease, strokes, and asthma. They protect biodiversity. They increase physical activity. They support stormwater management, support social cohesion, and reduce stress. So by just planting trees, you're getting so many things out of it. And there is just a small list, the list goes on and on. The benefit of trees are huge. And sometimes I feel, by just planting trees, we are able to take care of so many problems. So I would like to share, as I said, a small step which I have taken in 2007 has led to a big change. So today I'd like to show you how one of our forests which we created in Bangalore has just, turned in span of 2 years. So there is a small forest which was created in, it's urban forest, urban dense forest, created in September 2016. And few pictures which I'll show now, it clearly shows how this forest grew. This picture is from April 2017, same location, April 2017. We can see how the area which was seen in the first screen, how it changes and what it becomes in the next screen, right? This is within span of what, 8 months. The next slide shows July 2017, under 1 year. January 2018, May 2018, September 2018. So there is exactly 2 years from the day of plantation. So we can see how the land, which was an empty land before the plantation, has now become a dense forest. And dense urban forest in the city. This is not something outside the city. This is right in Bangalore. So if you see how it looked in September 2019, and then how it looked in January 2020, right? We can see there is hardly any sunlight which reaches the ground now, and we can imagine the kind of the kind of benefit the soil in this entire region is getting. All the leaves fall down, it forms the earth bed, and then it is supporting the soil so much. Now this is just one of the forests, and this is our first dense forest which we created in Bangalore with small number of saplings. And now this shows the complete transformation of the same land, how it was on the left side in 2016 and what it has become in 2020 and now, right? So this is a very small urban forest which we created in Bangalore. It just has 2,000 saplings, 600 square meter. What started in 2016 with this small initiative, we are now creating larger urban forests in the cities which have as much as 50,000 saplings. So the largest forest which we have, and right in Bangalore also, it has 50,000 saplings. So you can imagine how that 5-acre land has turned into from an empty patch of land to what it looks in these images. I would also like to show you some other forests which we have been, and these are urban forests, some other forests. So this urban forest has been created next to a lake bed. So it is supporting the lake biodiversity as well, lake's ecosystem. It is right next to the lake, 10,000 saplings planted next to a lake. And this is an amazing spot. We see so many birds now coming and nesting in these forests. The forest which you see here was done in a school. It's a school campus where the students from the school, they came forward and they took care of this forest. They every week they were taking care of this forest. They were doing maintenance of this forest. So they were able to see, how the forest grows from a small sapling to what we see on the right side. They were able to see how important it is, and they were able to relate to all of this as they were passing from one grade to the next and to the next. They were seeing these saplings turning into trees. So how important this is, right? We can imagine how important this is. And it was not a small piece of land. You can see how large, this land was. There's another forest created in a national park in Bangalore. This is the place which I was talking about. This has this location now has 50,000 saplings, and all of these forests which I'm showing you are within the city. Okay, these are within the city, well within the city. and in locations where people cannot even imagine that we have such forests in these places. This is another forest created next to a lake bed. So what started from Bangalore by just planting one sapling in 2007 and then making more and more such forests, Say Trees is now planting saplings in Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Delhi, Lucknow, and many other places. We have also taken our initiative to many rural spaces where we are able to scale these projects, because as many of us have been talking about, we need to scale up our initiative in this decade. We need to amplify our initiative. Our efforts have to be exponential. So we are taking this initiative to as many places as possible, not only in urban spaces. Urban spaces, we know that it is very, very important, but we don't want to miss this opportunity and explode these things into rural spaces as well. And all of this because we want this, our efforts have to be exponential in this decade. I always say that, my effort in this decade should make all my previous efforts look like peanuts. Whatever I have been doing in last 15 years should look like peanuts in front of what I hope to do in these 10 years, because we all know how important it is. It was, I think Aditya mentioned that we just have 10 years to limit our temperature increase by 0.4 degrees. It's a huge task. And it obviously needs a lot of collaborations. People, like-minded people needs to come together, collaborate, and make sure that we are able to achieve this. That's what is the whole aim. And then 10 years, it's not just a matter of few years. We have solid 10 years. And I'm sure with proper collaborations, we can give a good fight to climate change. With this, I'd like to, stop my presentation here.
Thank you, Kapilji. More power to you and Say Trees for such amazing work you have been doing. Well, I hope that all our participants have really enjoyed these positive stories and feeling inspired enough to get themselves into action in coming times. We at Climate Reality India are empowering the educators and young minds through climate education. We believe in the power of youth. You can learn more about our education initiatives on our website or by writing back to us at india@climatereality.com. And this summer, we are starting something exciting for young minds. And for this, I request Ms. Rekha Lalla, our program manager for Green Campus program, to bring you and present the program which we are planning.
So thank you, Sheetal. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Sheetal. I think I'm audible. Yeah, okay. A good evening to all the panelists, and I think all my students have been listening and inspired. I think the words you see, the chat, it is not stopping, and all of them are so, I think you all are the heroes for them. You all inspire them so much, and I'm sure they would take so much from it. And we had the session for summer program from tomorrow, but I don't think it is tomorrow. It is from today, it has started. So I'll just share my screen and let you know what the summer program, the Climate Reality India has started. So what happens is during the pandemic, all the schools are working from home, the teachers are working from home, students are sitting at home, and they have even the 10th and 12th board that's been cancelled by CBSE. So in such pandemic, when the students are sitting at home, how we thought we have been having this green school program. So under this green school program, we thought we had so many schools registered with us as the green schools. So we at Climate Reality India, we thought, why not have something creative for those students, which are already even the schools are helping us, they are doing some work, so they are not going. So we started this project, which is called Summer Camp by Climate Reality Project India. So only how the detail is that only the registered school can participate, and it's a 4-month-long program. It is a month-long program for 4 days of all Sundays. All Sundays, we thought students will not wake up in the morning, so we have shifted it to in the evening so that they can join us from 5 to 7 and listen to all the environmentalists and the heroes which are doing great work on ground, on the field. And these, after listening to the stories of theirs, they can write a story or give them in the written form, or they can make film. So I'll just take you around what we have thought. So this summer camp is a unique opportunity for these students to grow, become independent, self-confident, even socialize virtually, of course, and even learn new learning skills from them. So we have got some of the very interesting people, those who are coming and sharing their stories and working in the field of biodiversity, and their experiences. With their experiences, they are going to inspire our young people, those who are now still sitting there and listening to me. So I really feel that they had their session is on 6th of June, that is tomorrow in the evening, but we have started it now only. So after listening to the stories, we want them, I think these are the stories which are very relatable and eye-opener and very inspiring. Just like we have been listening to Kapil sir and Nandini ma'am and Alsi ma'am. So all of them have such great story, such great work. So I have told them, all those students, they are listening and they are writing, and they would create stories around your work. They will create their own work also. And I think they would join you also. So I think that's the reason why we thought that we need to believe in ourselves. We want students to believe in themselves, where they are, from wherever they are sitting, they can create stories. Next session of ours is on 13th of June. That is on filmmaking. And we have got 2 filmmakers with us, which are going to tell them how to make a film. So filmmaking can consolidate their understanding and retention of information. It's really great in building their activity. It empowers them, their computing skill, and even tell a story very virtually, visually, and beautifully. So that's the importance of filmmaking. And I think the students are going to learn a lot from storyboarding, script writing, and filmmaking, and even the using the animation to tell the stories. So this is a skill enhancing practice-based summer program for the future generation on climate change by Climate Reality Project India. This program, we always said we have been taking teachers training program for, I think, for years together. So this time, why not focus on the students, those who are sitting locked inside? So we have decided, and this is the last session which we are going to have, that is on how to project stories on 20th. So we are that is an open space where we are getting some of the people, which will tell them how to project those stories on social media, on other platforms, which I think narratives are the one which can nurture and strengthen their action. No, I think narratives are the one which can have impact masses, and we can achieve our goal. I think goals for nature, goals for ecology, and goals for climate action. So we are going to have virtual, of course, virtual engagements, webinar, live chat with all the experts for the students to learn from them and learn and create a powerful story, which would be awarded and featured on our site. And they would also get a 1 month, they're going to work with our team and create some more stories and write for us. So they would submit their stories in written form and a filmmaking or in a form of a film, and we will award them. That's for what we have created for the students. So I think over to you, Sheetal. I'll just stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing the plan. And we already have over 200 students registered for our summer camp already, and they are starting their sessions from tomorrow. And with this, we are at the end of our power-packed session of hope, positive stories, and marking the beginning of UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration. It is my pleasure to invite Mr. Pradeep Burman for his closing remarks. Mr. Pradeep Burman is chairman of Mobis Foundation, trustee at the Climate Project Foundation, founder chairman of Sandesh, an NGO supported by Dabur India Limited. He is a visionary sustainability leader and truly believes in the power of sustainability education. Sir, we request you for your concluding remarks and message for our youth community.
Thank you, Sheetal. Are we having 200 students today listening?
Yes, sir.
More than that. Anyway, I myself am very inspired by the whole evening talk and by hearing the hopeful stories which we have heard about the ocean from Elsie, Gabriel from Mr. Rajmohan about making the difference, about the corals from Mr. Deshmukh, from Mr. Bagai, who told us how Prakriti Dev Bhava. So that's a very important learning, that this is how we have to project Prakriti in future. And from Mr. Kapil Sharma, the amazing work that he has done in urban areas, which is very, very difficult to do because there's so many people which are around, they object to whatever you do. And the fact that he has succeeded, naturally we should invite him to Delhi to do some of the same work for us. And the work being done by Rekha Lalla also is quite inspiring, that is the Climate Reality Project. You're training teachers and the teachers then are training the students. So all great work. What I want to say today, that while we're all doing great work on renewable energy, we're doing great work on Green Campus Program, we get great work on ACT support, speak, and then write. Yes, that it's restoring the ecosystem also, we are learning a lot. These are all technical matters. We have to have what is called new economics. It cannot be economics of GDP and growth of GDP. It can no longer be that, because the moment we do that, we're destroying Prakriti and Prakriti Dev Bhava. That means we're destroying ourselves in the process. So India let us start with India. It is our country. So we have to start here. We can't lecture the world without showing something what is being done in India. Jobs, we're talking about jobs. What kind of jobs do we want? Do we want to have jobs just to increase the amount of pollution which we are doing? Or we want to look at something else. We're looking at green jobs, and green jobs is what has to be done. The awareness about population is very important, and that has to be made. Nobody is saying anything about the population. Instead, we are hearing in the paper that China has said that they should have 3 children now instead of 2. Don't you think that that's going to be disastrous as far as consumption is concerned, as far as GDP is concerned, as far as nature is concerned? It is disastrous. And I will tell you the reason, because Dr. Bhuj has already said from 1972, the population of the world has doubled since then, from 380 million or something right now to 780 million. It's more than doubled. And the cause of our dreariness about climate change, about this and that, can be linked to the population growth and the consumption patterns that we are doing. So we should be now, many more of us should be talking about the population growth and the need to limit population. I would say that we should set a goal. We have 17 goals, SDG goals. We have to have an 18th goal to limit the population from 7.8 billion to maybe 3.8 billion. Of course, that'd be disastrous. Everybody will scream and say, oh, you're a madman. Because economy, how does the economy do with 3.8 billion? What kind of economy do we need? Someone needs to look at that. Someone needs to look at what is the population that this earth can sustain. We don't know. Nobody has looked at that. We are keeping on increasing the population, increasing the total consumption patterns, but we don't know whether the earth can survive it in spite of all the measures of renewable energy, green campus, ACT support, speak, restoring ecosystem. But if we don't determine what is the population that the earth can sustain that we don't know. Nor are we willing to speak about that, because I suspect, where I read that the population should be 750 million for the earth to support. Now, who's going to believe that? I read it somewhere, but I can't remember where. So this is some of the things which is going on in my mind all through the thing. While we have to look at 1.5 degree and we have to look at 2030, that how this is done. But unless we get the governments involved, unless the government takes notice, we cannot do what we expect to do by that. We cannot reach that degree by just renewable energy to 750 gigawatts renewable energy. We cannot do that. As long as we don't do some of the other things like population control, as well as rates of consumption, as well as everything else that we need to do to support ourselves in this planet. We cannot carry on and cut down one more tree. We might grow 100 new trees, we might grow 1 million new trees, but we cannot afford to cut down even one tree. So that message is not going across. We're just setting the message across that plant one more tree. That's very good. I said plant more trees. Yes, that's important. But we have to also look at the population. The other point that we must look at is development versus environment. There's always a debate going on, development versus environment, development versus environment. In fact, India itself in international bodies says that, look, we need development and therefore we have to throw out this on environment. Don't tell us about environment. First, let us develop to your stage and then we will talk about it. But we cannot afford to say that anymore because we are destroying the planet while we are saying that. And we are destroying the planet at a much faster rate than we ever before. It is going faster downhill. The slope is going much faster downhill than it was going before. So we better take notice. And who is to take notice? It's the next generation. It's the next generation that has to take notice and make sure that we behave ourselves and we behave in a responsible manner to prevent or to allow them to live their life on this planet. Otherwise, we'll have to go to another planet. And as you said, there is no planet B. So we can't run away. So these are some of the things that we can recreate food, health, water, all that has to go on. But habitat, we cannot increase the habitat because that means more concrete. But you will say, then what happens to the construction industry? What happens to the automobile industry if we don't create more cars? That is something which is to be looked at by the economists and by the government. These are many of the things which enter my mind and which should enter in the minds of all thinkers, policymakers, etc. For myself and the Mobius Foundation, one of the main things that I'm looking at is population stabilization, and the other thing is education. And I think these two are the key areas which will help us survive and make the world a place to live in for the future generations. So thank you very much, Sheetal and the Climate Reality Project for putting this on, and all the work which I heard. I'm truly inspired by that. But we need to do a lot more. The next 10 years are critical for the planet. So let's go and do it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your inspiring thoughts and thought-provoking ideas with us and to our young generation who are here with us today. And all I want to say at the end is, let's come together to reimagine, recreate, and restore our relationship with the natural world and do our bit. With this, I thank all of you for joining us. We are completely overwhelmed by your positive responses and messages that we are seeing in the chat box. Thank you so much for being such an active audience. You have put a lot of questions to us, but as we are running behind the schedule and we have already overshot the time, so we will try to answer some of the questions maybe later in the email. And special thanks to our experts and our green warriors for presenting their stories. And especially my colleague Bhavesh for putting this together and working behind the scenes. Thank you all to my other colleagues at Climate Reality India, Rekha ma'am, Gitika, and my other colleagues at Mobis team. Thank you, everyone. And with this, we end our today's webinar here. More power to each and every one of you. And if you have any message for us, please feel free to message us at Climate Reality India's social media platform or to our email ID. We will get back to you. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you all. Thank you, Sheetal and Bhavesh and Rekha. A wonderful program.
Yeah, in a lot of inspiration out there coming from audience, so it matters, I think. Thank you, Dr. Saab, for standing with us. Rajmohan sir, thank you. Rekha ma'am, Nandini ma'am, Kapilji. Yeah, and I think this can be a new beginning for doing things together as well. So what Kapil is doing can be augmented by Rajmohan ji. Nandini ma'am can be an asset to LC as well. So I think there is a lot of thing that we can do together.
A lot of collaboration required.
They are doing great work.
Thank you.
Okay, then we finish now. And thank you, participants. Thank you so very much for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you.